All right. I want to welcome you all to our live webinar today with Kaaren Hall of uDirect IRA Services. We're excited to get to know her a little bit more, hear a little bit about her story, and get into the nitty-gritty of self-directed IRAs. So a little background before we want to get into, but before we do that, if anyone has questions, we would love for you to ask them. Type them in the chat, and as we ask questions, we'll look at those and make sure we get them covered. And so, Kaaren, you started uDirect IRA when?
Boy, in 2009, and it was in just the pits of the Great Recession, I'm sure, as you all recall. And I'll tell you, it's been a bumpy ride and a fun ride too, watching all, just hand in hand with investors as they're finding deals and getting through those different kinds of deals and the trends that we've seen throughout the years. But it's very rewarding because all of our account holders are saving for the future. They're all saving for retirement, right? And it's such a great need that we all have to save for retirement. And it's wonderful that you don't have to rely on something like the stock market solely for your retirement and put all your eggs in one basket. So it's been a great 16 years. Yeah.
And how much in-house do you have? How much money are you managing?
I had to say $1 billion. It's like 1.2 billion. It's just so satisfying. I mean, we have more cash coming through, you know, uh, our doors than most banks. It's amazing how many people are saving for retirement. Just the in and the out of it. Because people there's been, okay, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that there is a life cycle to the self-directed IRA where people will open the account, they'll get it funded, they'll invest, and then there's that investment period, that holding period. And then we see people actually get into retirement and into their later years, their RMD years, required minimum distribution years. And it's fun to see that whole life cycle and see how we've made a difference through providing this kind of service, making a difference in people's lives.
Awesome. Awesome. I also want to introduce Andy McMullen. He is a founder of Legacy Acquisitions. You've been in real estate for 25 plus years. Share a little bit about what you're focused on right now.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. So it's great to have Kaaren. We're always just kind of trying to bring in, folks that have been doing this, making people's lives better. So I'm really here to kind of, ask some of the questions that I probably had when we first started investing in IRAs as a passive and as a active operator. But to answer your question, Andrew, we've been working in built to rent projects for the last 7 years. I've been in real estate game for the last 25 in development, multifamily, some office. But over the last 7 or so, we've been really trying to ride the built to rent trend. And if, luckily we've had quite a few folks that want to invest their self-directed IRAs in the real estate space and specifically built to rent and even some of our private loans. So would love to kind of bring that education to the audience by maybe teasing out a few questions for Kaaren.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say before we get into the questions, so Andy and I both had the privilege of meeting Kaaren in person within the last month. And I was blown away by just your presence. Definitely a pro who's been doing this for a while, but then you're just real and very genuine, and definitely someone who lights up a room when they come in. And so it was great to get to know you a little bit more. And I know Andy met you recently too at an event. So
Yeah, no, great meeting you guys as well. And what a great event we were at. That was Russell Gray's, and when you get together with other investors, I mean, everybody has the same, especially in the kind of group we're in, everybody has the same sort of mindset, and we're doing well by doing good, I like to say.
nice. Well, let's just get into this. Let's start at a really simple spot. What exactly is a self-directed IRA?
Right, I know. If that blows people's minds. I can do what?
Mhm.
A lot of people do know what an IRA is. And so if you know what an IRA is, I mean, I think that you really know what a self-directed IRA is. So I'll explain. It was literally 50 years ago, 50, okay, longer than most of your viewers have been alive, that you've been able to invest outside of Wall Street using an IRA, and people don't even know about it, right? So IRAs were created by the ERISA Act, which is the Employment Retirement Income Security Act. 1975, Gerald Ford was the president then. Did we just get another wrinkle, everybody? Okay, I think we did. And so that's how long it's been around, okay? Since day one of IRA's creation, you've been able to self-direct it, because when IRAs were created, they just said, hey, you can invest in anything except life insurance contracts and collectibles. That's always been the case for IRAs. But, Wall Street got hold of it. Wow, what a great idea. And then people are out there working their jobs, not really maybe thinking, having a primary thought about the retirement investing and how they can do this. So they'll work at a job, have a 401k, and roll it over into an IRA typically, and put it in mutual funds because they're busy doing something else. But you've always been able to roll that over into alternative assets like real estate, like making loans from your IRA to secured and unsecured situations, and so many other things, cryptocurrency, gosh, precious metals, self-storage, so many different things. So it's nothing new, and people are often very, very surprised that they don't know that. We represent maybe 4% of all IRA investing, but I believe that's changing. And I'll elaborate just to say that now that the Big Beautiful Act has passed, it includes the opportunity for people to take their 401ks where they work and invest them in alternative assets, not directly, like a self-directed IRA can invest directly with you guys. But in this case, it would be, they would invest in a fund. If it's a 401k, you'll be able to take your 401k and invest in a fund that holds alternative assets, like the kinds you
Whoa,
offer.
wait a
And
second.
that's coming up.
Because I always remember hearing that the part of the self-directed IRA is, you've got your employee, he has that IRA that they're likely going to have to stay as long as they're employed with that. It's managed by that company. And that when you leave, you can usually take that, self-direct that, set something up. But now you're saying that with this new bill, if my wife is working at a company in Carlsbad, there is something that she could set up that we could invest in a fund that could potentially invest in alternative explain that, tease that out a little bit.
Yeah, it doesn't work exactly that way, and there's a lot of confusion. So what you're saying is rightly so, because it isn't necessarily clear. So it say somebody works at Home Depot, for example. Somebody works in Home Depot, they are probably not what's called an accredited investor. You certainly know what that is. And so you have to be accredited to invest in certain assets. So somebody who's not an accredited investor could never take their 401k and invest in an alternative asset, like a Reg D offering where you have to be accredited. So here's how this works. Big Beautiful Act, 401k, say a 401k, we'll say with John Hancock. So John Hancock, what they'll do, they'll act as that accredited investor. Person at Home Depot isn't accredited, but John Hancock is. So John Hancock comes and it creates a fund of assets, like, for example, the kind that Legacy Acquisitions offers, various assets. And so they are the accredited investor holding a fund. Now, Home Depot employee can invest through John Hancock, as an example, into this fund. That's how that goes. It's not setting a separate account. It's not like a self-directed IRA where if I'm accredited, I can invest directly into your deal with my self-directed IRA. I can do that if I'm accredited. It's different.
Got it. So
But
that
it's still,
company,
yeah.
John Hancock, that creates the fund, they that they would be managing which assets they're investing in. That particular company would be
Precisely right.
Okay, interesting, fascinating. So
And
if
it's
you don't,
so interesting, if I can add, if you don't mind,
yeah,
is that the reason that that hasn't been allowed in the future is because the plan sponsors, okay, the trustees of these plans, these employers who are trustees of their plan that their employees are participating in, they have what's called a fiduciary duty, or a duty to the best interest of their employees. And so they can't offer scary assets. They have personal liability. Okay, personal. So that means when you're an employer, you've got a 401k, you're a fiduciary, you have some duty to your employees. Okay. So the regulators like to consider alternative assets to be risky, which I'm sorry, but I think a house is a lot less risky than a stock. That's me. But that's how they think, or have thought in the past. So right now, the Department of Labor, I know I'm going in the weeds here, but I
that's
think
good.
it's relevant. The Department of Labor is doing a 180-day review of this new situation. And I think their goal is, and hopefully their ultimate outcome will be, to indemnify these plan administrators from this fiduciary duty, saying, hey, you've got the choice to do this, but you're going to, just like with the self-directed IRA, you're investing, you're taking on risk. And to possibly indemnify the plan sponsor, the employer who's also the trustee of the plan, indemnify them and let their employees invest in alternative assets and participate in Main Street. And it's great for so many reasons. It opens the doors for the regular investor to invest in what the bazillionaires do. And so that's wonderful. It also opens the eyes of the regulators not to look at the self-directed space as, oh, risky. There's no investment. You tell me if I'm wrong. There's no investment that doesn't have risk. Every investment is risky. Every investment. You lend your brother $5. That's risky. It doesn't matter how well you know him, So this is a good thing, and it opens the doors to seeing things in a broader perspective.
Can you maybe just, let's zoom out a little bit, because I know that I'm always constantly amazed at how little people know about the self-directed space. We bring a lot of investors, and almost every time Andrew and I are talking to investors, we bring up this opportunity and people are blown away by it. So maybe if you don't mind just teasing out a little bit, who would be the ideal person to utilize a self-directed, and how long about would that take to set up?
Yeah. So like our account holder avatar, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's that person?
Who is that person that's listening in on our conversation right now that's like, I need to know more about this?
Yeah. I mean, really, to have an IRA, all you have to, it's like kind of the fog of mirror test. You just, if you have active income from a job, you can contribute to an IRA. I'll say that. But our ideal account holder would be somebody typically between like 40 and 65, around that age. Somebody who's worked at a couple of jobs, built up a couple of 401ks, has some retirement money that they can roll over into an IRA. All right. And then take advantage of investing in an asset where maybe to get into that deal, it's $50, $100, $200,000 to invest, or maybe even buy a house. Your IRA can buy a house. The renters can move into that house. The renters pay the IRA the rent. The IRA is the landlord, that you can do that with the self-directed IRA. So the typical person who's queued up to do that has worked a couple of jobs. So typically it's 40 to 65. And I say 65 because we're building for retirement around 65 to 70. And now 73 is the RMD age. That's when you are retiring. And so now you've been planning all these years and now you're ready. So it's usually 40 to 65 is our typical account holder.
And how long does it typically, just the process, if somebody wanted to set it up?
Yeah, we've taken it from this and made it this, so that's good. We have over the years have changed, like every other company on the face of the planet, to digitalization. And we have a little digital form you go on online and you fill it out. And you give us your name, the typical things, like if you're going to open a bank account, and who, like, for example, who are your beneficiaries, and tell us where is your money today. So if it's with an IRA, you're putting that IRA information in now, and it takes maybe 10 minutes. So by the time you're done filling out this form, you hit enter. Not only have you opened an account, but now you have access to our business platform. You can see everything that's in there, all the information that's available to you. But we've already started moving that money from your current IRA holder, we call it a custodian, into your new self-directed IRA. Now, if it's a previous employer plan, that's a different process. That's a different process. For that, what you have to do, you go through the same process of using the digital form, opening the account. But once the account's open, you reach out to that plan administrator saying, hey, I opened an IRA, please roll my money over into it. And we hold your hand about this and what to say, and very brief amount of information you need to give them. And what they'll do, they'll say, sure, they'll cut a check to the new IRA. And first it's a check. Second, they're going to snail mail it. So an IRA moves very quickly. I'd say a week between opening an account and having the money all ready for you. But if it's a rollover from a 457, a 403B, a 401k, something called a TSP, one of these employer accounts, 2 weeks, until the money is really queued up to be invested.
Thank you.
Now, along with that, now let's say they've done that. It's a 401k. They've rolled it over. It's taken 2 weeks. Now, let's say they have a pre-vetted opportunity. Maybe it's in real estate. Maybe it's a loan to a brother, or whatever the case may be. Yeah. What's a typical timeline from when everything's set up within the self-directed account? Now I'm ready to fund my investment. What's a typical timeline there?
Well, it all depends, I have to say, on the efficiency of the account holder themselves. So if you get us the documentation, we call it the supporting documentation, and that's the contract. So if you're investing in a syndication, it's the subscription agreement, right? If your IRA is lending money, that documentation is called the note. If you're buying a house, it's called the offer to purchase, right? So if you give us the supporting documentation up front, the sooner you give it to us, the sooner we can review it and get it queued up. So we're just sitting there holding this approved situation, this approved asset. I mean, we're not saying whether or not it's a good or bad investment. We're just saying it's queued up to fund. How about that?
Yeah.
So the sooner you get that to us, the minute your money comes in, usually it takes a day to processing and be boarded and all this, but then we can fund it straight away. But if you're just hanging out and not giving us the documentation and the money is sitting there, we can't help you until you provide us that documentation. But assuming we have it, I mean, the fastest, and I've been in the industry a long time, I don't know, nearly 20 years. And we talk amongst ourselves like, hey, what's the fastest you've ever done a deal from soup to nuts, And it's 4 days. That's the fastest. And that is, I mean, things have to move, and I'm telling you. But it's typically, it could be a week. 2 weeks is a very realistic timeline.
Can you hit on this? I know we're going to get questions on this house. I'm just so curious how this works. My understanding with self-directed IRAs is that they always had to be in passive deals, but it sounds like there's a separation that you can make by investing in the home. How does that work?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I should explain that there are rules of self-directed IRAs and self-directed investing in general. As a whole, they're called prohibited transactions. Okay, so it's not so much what you can do, because the list of what you can do is like this short. But the list of what you can't do is larger. Yeah. So what you can't do is invest or benefit disallowed people. So I want to talk about this. Disallowed people are your ascendants and descendants. So for example, your IRA doesn't buy an asset from your mom. Your IRA doesn't buy a house and let your dad live there or let your kids live there. They're disallowed. It's your grandparents, your parents, you and your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, disallowed. Any fiduciary to the plan. So for example, my IRA is an investor with legacy, and now you want my IRA to give you a personal loan. Well, you're already a fiduciary to my plan, so my IRA isn't going to make a personal loan to you. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we have to keep it, you have to avoid prohibited transactions. But another prohibited transaction is what's called offering services to the plan. And this gets to your point, Andy. And so what I mean by that is that when your IRA buys a house, there are things you can do, and there are things you just can't do because you want to, again, it's all a game of keep away, I say, from the prohibited transaction. So what you can't do is have personal benefit from the asset, but what you can do is you can acquire the property. What you can't do is, for example, go in there and swing the hammers. You're not going to swing the hammers or do the work yourself, but you can hire a third-party vendor. So you can choose the property, select the tenant, screen them, walk up to them, pick up their rent check if you wish. You don't have to. They can auto deposit it, but you can pick up their rent check and send it into your IRA, and you can hire third-party vendors. So you can kind of property manage that asset if it's a house, as long as you're not doing the repairs, as long as you're hiring third-party vendors to do the repairs, and as long as you never have personal use of that house, as long as none of your ascendants and descendants have personal use of that particular house, you're okay.
Fascinating.
Mm.
Okay, Andrew, go ahead. I'll save my question because
Okay.
please.
Yeah, okay, so now let's get into types of investments or how you're using your self-directed IRA. What are some good uses of it as far as vehicles to get a strong return on it that you've seen?
Yeah, I think my personal favorite is secured notes
Mm.
because I mean, investing, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's kind of easy to do a secured note. But even if your IRA makes a secured note and the borrower pays, you win. If it's a secured note and the borrower doesn't pay, then you get the asset because it's secured. So, I mean, you have to go through the rigmarole of getting it into your IRA, which requires some titling and things like that. But then you have the asset. So I like that. But what are our account holders actually doing? They're investing in syndications. It's a #1 asset class. And a syndication, that's just the paperwork and the structure of the deal. It doesn't describe the underlying asset. It's just the structure of the deal. But the underlying asset could be, self-storage, it could be multifamily, it could be single family, it could be, a medical building, it could be so many different things. Typically it's real estate. But the syndication is a #1 asset class. And #2 now is cryptocurrency. It's early days. It's still the Wild West. There's risk in this. We don't know where it's going. Looks hopeful, but there you go. People really, really love precious metals more and more. And that's something that your IRA can buy. And then we have them stored for you because you're not allowed to have personal possession of those metals. There used to be a commercial out there for gold at home. We kind of, as an industry, put the kibosh on that because you can't keep the gold at home. So those are some assets, but and those are the basic assets. Notes, real estate, syndications, metals, crypto. Those REITs publicly, like a real estate investment trust, a REIT is also a very popular and common asset for a self-directed IRA.
Excellent. Well, we'd be remiss not to bring this one up. Sometimes you hear about what are some of the pitfalls or things you need to be aware of, let's say when investing in real estate. So let's say in a scenario where your self-directed IRA uses leverage such as a mortgage. What kind of implications are there for taxes in a scenario like that?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question because it's got several parts. So say your IRA was going to buy a house and because usually leverage goes hand in hand with real estate with a self-directed IRA. And so your IRA, I like to use this is a common analogy that I make, but say it's a $100,000 house, which right now we know kind of buys you a tool shed at Home Depot. Am I right? But just for numbers, we'll say a $100,000 house and your IRA has 70,000. So your IRA goes out and borrows money, say 30,000 to buy this deal. Well, your IRA doesn't go to a bank and get a loan like you and I do when we buy our houses that we live in. It'll go out and get what's called a non-recourse loan. And if your audience would like, I can provide a list of non-recourse lenders, not necessarily companies we endorse, but we made the list for everyone's convenience. So we're happy to share that. Just hit us up at info@udirectira.com. We'll shoot that over to you. So the IRA gets a loan from this non-recourse lender, and that's a beautiful thing. So now 30% came from leverage, 70% of the asset is owned by the IRA itself. And so the IRA owns the whole thing. But now here comes a $1,000 rent check. Well, the IRA earned $700 because of savings and earned $300 because of leverage. So it's that $300 that the IRA earned because of leverage that becomes taxable. And there's a special tax. It's not income tax. The IRA is still income tax free if it's a Roth or income tax deferred. It's a special tax called UDFI, unrelated debt financed income tax. And it doesn't have to be the end of the world. You know, it's a tax. It's not because you'll have your tax advisor file what's called a 990T. Like you and I, when we do our taxes, we file a 1040. An IRA will file a 990T. And maybe there are deductions. Maybe there are things that you can write off so that there's zero tax. And that's possible. But then for a year and then after that asset is paid in full, that debt is paid in full, a year and a day later, that is when that tax stops. So you'll be filing that 990T for a year and a day after that loan is paid in full, or after, you know, and if you sell the asset, that's different, but there you go. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. So then going back to what you like, you know, one of your favorites to use a self-directed IRA, if it's a secured note, you're lending to a business, or that in that scenario, in that case, it wouldn't be this wouldn't come up.
Right. Yes, that's exactly right. And typically it doesn't, but sometimes if your IRA invests in a syndication, and as you know, syndications have capital stacks, right? Different capital that they receive from different sources. So if one of the sources in this capital stack is leverage, is borrowed money, that syndication will pass through this UDFI tax to the IRA holder. And, you know, a lot of IRA holders don't know that or expect it. So I think a good thing to ask when you're investing in a syndication with an IRA, because your IRA becomes an equity owner of that asset. So you want to ask the asset sponsor, hey, is leverage part of your capital stack? Because if the answer is yes, this UDFI tax passes through, and you'll see it on your K1, and your IRA will need to file that 990T. Again, not the end of the world. And it's something that you want to discuss with your competent tax advisor. But it's something that you just have to, it's just another bit of paperwork in investing.
Hey, Kaaren, I got a question. So we hear a lot about uBit, and I cannot remember a time where it was activated in a passive investment that I had, but I know that people talk about it often, maybe sometimes as a scare tactic. But can you just, you know, talk a little bit about the uBit, how this affects a you know, somebody, a holder of an IRA that's investing either in a syndication or something else?
Well, you'll be surprised to know that I just did.
Oh,
Yeah. So UBIT and UDFI are sort of like twin taxes. I put this in the chat. You can read about these twin taxes in the IRS website, irs.gov, and look up publication 598. Now, UDFI, unrelated debt financed income tax, is when an IRA takes on leverage, or it could even sometimes even be a solo K. But UBIT, unrelated business income tax, is kind of an umbrella term for these two taxes. But what UBIT really is when an IRA invests in an active business. So if your IRA were to, for example, buy a syndication, not a syndication, a franchise, your IRA maybe buys like an ice cream store, and that's an active business. So your IRA would pay this same tax that I just described for UDFI. Your IRA would pay the same tax on the proceeds of that ice cream store. And you want to know about it. This is where you can read, go deep on that. And this is why, as investors, and you know this, but I'm just going to say it anyway, you have to have a good attorney to look at your contracts, and you have to have a competent tax advisor who understands these things. And if they don't, hey, bless them, that's great. I'm going to find someone who does, because this is what I need. And you go find someone who understands what you need, right? And so have somebody who understands by how to file a 990T, and make sure that you choose an advisor who understands UBIT and UDFI. And before you do a deal, you have to do your due diligence. That is the most important part of self-directed investing. Before you even think of opening an account, I say, do your due diligence on your asset. That's what takes the most time.
Right.
If you had a tip or two on that due diligence, hey, start with this when you're doing it, what would that be from your perspective?
Yeah, can I go off on a tangent again? Okay. You remind me of this woman who opened an account with us. It's a longer story that I'm going to tell, but she's, in her mid 50s, and she's saved all her life, and she's investing $500,000 in this deal. So if she would have made this one minor due diligence move that anyone alive can do pretty much today, she would have saved herself. Or yeah, she ended up being saved, but here you go. Google them. You have the oracle of all human knowledge, and if you have a cell phone, like almost every creature on earth, I think my dog has a cell phone, Google them and just say, this person's name, fraud. What comes up? Oh, guess what? The person this woman wanted to invest with, we were able to stop it. We don't always get to crime fights. Sometimes we do. But if she had just freaking Googled these people, she would have seen that these guys had been like literally incarcerated by the SEC for stealing money from people. All you have to do is go online, go on the line. That's what my daughter tells me it's called.
On the line.
On the web. Yeah. Just go online, Google it, whatever. AI. Now we've got AI. AI. Hey, I'm about to invest with XYZ, do deep research. Is there any, can you bring up any incidents of fraud or lawsuits? Now, just because there's a lawsuit doesn't mean that there is foul play. I have to say, everyone is open to receiving a complaint. You can't help it if someone files a complaint against you. You're not a wrongdoer. It's whether or not that complaint turned into some kind of legal action. So know that too. Some people get hit up with a complaint because someone is disgruntled and they want to cause trouble. So, but just understand that. But do your due diligence just by Googling the people.
Kaaren,
Yeah.
I gotta ask this. I heard a rumor, or actually, let me put it this way, because I don't want to lead the witness.
Okay.
What is the wildest investment that you've seen somebody in their self-directed IRA invest in?
Okay, you're asking me this. And so the answer is, I'm becoming famous for this one. That is to buy Super Bowl tickets with their IRA. Okay. Man. So I said this on a podcast. It has something like 6 million views.
Wow.
Yeah, this is my claim to fame. And
Okay, let's hear it. Well,
yeah, people are writing,
how does
oh,
this
this woman's an idiot. She doesn't know what she's doing. It's like, how about asking, why would you say that? Like, really, you've been in the industry 20 years. You must know something, why would you say that?
Mhm.
So self-directed IRAs 20 years ago was more the Wild West. It wasn't, I guess I have to preface by saying we don't approve the assets. We're not saying if it's good or bad, but we do have some responsibility, to kind of do a little due diligence. But whether or not the asset is good or a good deal is entirely up to the account holder. Okay, with that said. But it used to be that the rule is, hey, it's self-directed, they want to do it, there you go. Yeah. You want to invest in a hamster farm? Fine, whatever you want. It's, it meets the criteria of, that you can invest in anything except life insurance contracts and collectibles. Hamster farms, they're not collectibles, whatever. You can do it. Okay, so I made my point. But with these Super Bowl tickets, it's an asset. They invested in this Super Bowl. these tickets. Now, if they had gone to the Super Bowl or used the tickets, that would be personal use. That would be a prohibited transaction. If they were in the business of buying Super Bowl tickets as a living, and that was like a trade or a business, and they did it, that could be a prohibited transaction too. But it was just a one-off. Young man buys some tickets with his Roth IRA, sells them at a profit. Doesn't go to the game. That's not how he makes a living. That's what he does. And this was 20 years ago. Now, that happened. If you wanted to do that today, you'd have to find a custodian who says that that is what we call administratively feasible. That's a term made up by attorneys because, administratively feasible, what's that? It's sort of vague, isn't it? It's what it means is, as an administrator, is that an asset that we wish to custody? It's a business decision for the custodian. Am I willing to custody that asset? You have, as a business, a self-directed IRA company has a right to say, I will or will not, or we will or will not custody this asset if they wish. That's a choice. So they can say, yes, we will custody Super Bowl tickets. Yes, we will, or no, we will not. So given the swing to, being more conservative as we go forward with these assets, finding a custodian that will do that will be more difficult, but they're out there.
Okay. So it's not likely that my idea for buying up all of my kids' schools' parking spots in Carlsbad and package them up and putting some kind of business tickets for parking spots is probably not going to work.
Wow. Okay. Well, okay. We'll go deep on that another time.
Serious. We'll talk offline. I got hundreds of those.
What a great idea. Yeah. I think I'll do that. And then I'll sell it back to the parents who already paid tax, and who paid for that. But yeah, like a self-storage, whatever. Yeah, we'll go offline.
Yeah.
Well, Kaaren, we're so thankful that you came on and shared your wisdom with us. If you want that lender list, I know some of you asked for that. We will get that to you. We'll email it to you. And I can just say, from our side as developers and build to rent, man, self-directed IRAs for so many people, it's just like this cash I didn't know I had that I could do all these different things with. And it's been, I've had a handful of investors that have even broken into this space through their self-directed IRA. And so anytime there's anything that makes investing in real estate and other alternative assets more accessible, man, due diligence advised, but let's keep bringing those in here. And so this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, if I could just reiterate kind of what Kaaren was saying earlier, that we all kind of were groomed at some point to invest in the stock market or mutual funds and take our 9.9% over 10 years, et cetera, et cetera. But all of us, Kaaren and I, have lived through the 2008, 2009. We remember what it was like all the way till 2012 before things started to come back. So there's risk in almost everything that you do. But with the self-directed IRA, you're the one that's investigating and looking at it and diversifying your portfolio. And you don't have to think about what does the Fed do or what is some of the market, nuances that you don't particularly understand. You understand what's Super Bowl tickets and investing in real estate and some of these other things. So I'm just grateful that Kaaren, you're doing this and doing good while you're doing it. We can't wait. We'll probably have another follow-up one. We've kept you too long, but really appreciate you making this happen for us.
Oh, it's such a joy talking to you guys, and thank you so much.
What's the best way for people to reach you?
Probably our website. Start there. It's the letter U, uDirectIRA.com. And we have a contact us button. You can set up a consultation. And so just, a free 20-minute consultation, tell us. And if it goes 30 minutes, we don't charge you or anything, but it's like, just set expectations. It's usually about 20 minutes. But ask us your questions, and then we're going to ask you, what are you looking to invest in? And we really, really want to understand the underlying asset so that we can, help you understand how that would fit in a self-directed IRA and what you could expect.
Okay. I just want to make sure there's no questions. Okay.
Yeah. Last thing I'll share briefly. If you showed up today, we're going to send you a gift, and we'll do that via email. Also, we're in build to rent, and so This here is a free BTR book. You could take your camera over that QR code and it'll give you a link to download it. And so if you want to learn more about build to rent and what we're working on and why we love it so much, you can do that here. And I'll wait a few more seconds. All right. If you didn't get it, just reach out. We can get it to you another way. Kaaren, thank you so much again. I pray you have a blessed day and a great rest of your week. Thank you all for coming. If you have any questions, you know how to reach Kaaren or reach out to us and we'll be here to help. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.